and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
Hello there, beloved Ascension Pioneers, and welcome to this Ascension update with me, where I will be discussing the nature of our human embodiment and integration, which is one of my most continued topics as of the late. And I want to talk about how it is and what all of us who are moving deeper into this transcendence, which is actually not just this year the essence of transcendence is felt very intensely, but it's actually what this whole ascension journey is all about. So I wish to focus on those of us who are moving into this feeling of truly deeply rooting into this earthly experience. And for many of us, this might feel like we really are becoming the masters of Earth. And I want to talk about what this means in many terms. Sometimes I get questions from my viewers, and they ask me very much about different concepts. Recently I was asked about what does it really happen when we actually transcend some of the things, and if our awareness will be completely disintegrated from all of the attachment and, not just the personality that we have, but it was something about the complete dissolution of what we perceive as a certain identity, and then what will it be if our awareness will have no reference point. But the thing is that these are very mental concepts. And a lot of us, when we were moving through the stages of being a spiritual seeker, we were moving through those concepts, and we were almost like being showered with so much of the divine understanding that we would later put into practice once we would truly start engaging with life and life forms here on this planet, because a lot of us come from different origins, and we're all basically star-seeded. We're all coming from many different, various places in the whole universe and beyond. But the thing is that where we are now, a lot of us, those of us who are moving onto the path of human mastery, so becoming masters of Earth, we're no longer feeling so much the need to move into the spiritual topics in terms of what certain things mean, and exploring this mentally or through reading and pondering, and many sorts of just different means of contemplation, which is very essential for us at the initial stages as the Divine Remembrance program begins, especially for those of you who really strongly resonate with the words Ascension Pioneers, because you were meant to become here, to become your true self, to be the embodiment of the new human, the Homo Luminous, as I call it. But these things really they were of usage for us until a certain point. And as we transcend them, we really will want to merge more deeply with the essence of feeling life. And we cannot feel life so deeply if we don't participate in it, if we don't really have the experience. So up until this point, a lot of us had an understanding, a spiritual reference, spiritual concepts. But up until the point where, the experience has to be allowed, we truly will have to disengage from many of these concepts, because they could just further, in a way, they could limit us to what we can truly become as humans, because we have a certain anticipation or attachment to something we've read or something we've been contemplating or researching or learning about spiritually in terms of the esoteric knowledge or metaphysical understanding. And I talked to people who are not so much in this understanding, and recently someone told me, as I've asked them how much deeper they went into their spiritual journey, they said, well, these are the kind of things I do believe, and these are the kind of things I don't want to go into because I don't feel they're important for my journey at this time. And this is someone who just knows very organically what they need on their soul journey, as in a position to many beings who have entered the depth of these esoterical subjects and topics. And if you don't know how to use it in a balanced, healthy way, it can engulf you. It can eat you up. And I've had people writing to me recently that they were awakened too fast, that they don't know what to do with it. They feel like they would make a sacrifice if they move from their old life and into the new, because it feels almost like the gap to bridge is too wide, and they don't know how to do it, and they feel they want to just go back to the old, or just numb themselves down, and they don't know what to do. And the thing is that everything that we will ever need, our soul will provide for us. It will give us in a natural, organic way. And a lot of the spiritual studies and metaphysical understandings that we were not just engaging within this lifetime, but prior to these lifetimes, because as starseeds, we've had eons and eons of preparations. We have to know this. You know, we've come here equipped. This is nothing new to us. And as I know certain things, you know, they might be very spiritual and they might sound very metaphysical, and yet in a way they don't interest me, because it feels like we're now at a stage when it's time to implement a lot of those. And if you remember, there was a lot of spiritual groups, for example the Essenes, who were studying various topics, and a lot of beings were studious already in different lifetimes, and they were playing the hermit. And even if this was just the feeling you had in this lifetime, because up until this point where I am now, I felt like a hermit, like a researcher, like an observant, conscious observer of this life and reality. And up until the later part of the last year, this was right. It just felt right. But then something shifted. And this was this ongoing need to become the embodiment of the experience here on Earth. And the experience is something that is an organic guidance of our soul, which just tells us, look, this is where you need to be. And for you to be here, you will be given all the tools, all the understanding. Just go through the experience, allow yourself. And sometimes if we have too much concepts in our mind, we're not going to move into the experience, because we're going to have this preordained image of how things are supposed to be, because our mind wasn't mature enough when we were studying something or developing something just mentally, that it could go through that in a natural way. So it developed its own filters and mechanisms to cope with all the knowledge. You know, a lot of people were just reading their whole life. But then, you know, if they found themselves here in nature, they wouldn't know how to survive if, for example, something happens, that they have to survive basically just out here in nature, because they have deprived themselves of that organic sensing, that organic feeling. And a part of the ascension is the organic process of us shifting in our human form and learning to readjust in our human senses. So to become a master of Earth means to become a master of how much knowledge and for what usage, and how do we actually filter it through ourselves, that it's actually integral for our experience, that it's not just something that's too much or it's overwhelming us and we don't even know what to do with it. So today's topic will be dedicated to this, and the understanding that where you are, a lot of you will feel this pull to just live life, and to know that mastery is no longer about, you know, having these infinite hours of spiritual research and reading and studying, because, you know, there is only as much as that we can do to prepare. But your body will just naturally tell you that the preparation stage, you know, for a specific period in your life, for a specific cycle, is kind of coming to a conclusion. And this year, and you know we're in the 9 universal year, is the year of that. Is the year to see what we have actually gathered and how much do we actually need from all of that for our earthly wisdom. Did you ask yourself why this year so many planets are retrograde, and especially this month? April is basically a halt month when it comes to that, because we have so many planets retrograde. Just do your research in terms of astrology. And I want to say here that someone just recently told me that astrology is just a bunch of crap. It's just a bunch of stones and rocks, you know, swimming out there in the cosmos, and they don't make any sense. But the thing is, we are also those rocks. We're a part of it. Everything is spinning. Everything is moving in this cycle of ascension, and it's all contributing to the allness of all life. It's not something that we can say this is not a part of source, or this is an illusion, or this is bad, or this is negative. When we really truly master our earthly experience, we will start to kind of want to find out for ourselves and think with our heads. So recently I've had discussion with someone who's more coming from the scientific approach, and they said, you know, I want to research everything, even the conspiracy theories, whatever there is about any sorts of subject, with my own understanding. I want to see if I can feel that, if I can sense that, if I feel that this is it, then I will have to make my own choice. If not, I won't know whether that's true or not. And I think that's kind of where we are now, when the scientific approach needs to meet the spiritual approach, because a lot of us Ascension pioneers, we come here with more crystalline vibrations. So if you see the energies of indigo and crystalline meeting, kind of, you know, creating this diamond light frequency, which is the frequency of just pure knowing. And the crystalline is more coming from that esoteric approach, while the indigo is more the warrior type of energy. I'm not saying there's only this and that. We can have fused energies within ourselves, because we all have different parts which we are integrating now. So these parts are being called out from us. They're coming out to the surface as we're using them, as we're learning how to utilize them. And the thing for us here in terms of becoming earth masters is to allow ourselves the art of the human experience. And a lot of times, if we will have too many preconceived notions and understandings and promptings, they will kind of filter our experiences rather than allowing them to just be, for us to kind of filter them, because we will kind of want to prevent ourselves. And we said, okay, those few years I will only dedicate myself to the art of spiritual research and to the metaphysical topics. And eventually you will come into a period when your soul will say, well, you gotta write your test now. And it's not just a theoretical test, it's also a practical examination of what you've actually been gathering and learning so far. So a lot of us are now finding themselves at this threshold of, like I've been saying, we're bridging different realities, we're bridging different worlds. And it's not an easy journey. It feels like this is somewhere that not a lot of people have gone before. As humans were ascending before, prior to this lifetime, a lot of times they did it in isolated circles, or just different individuals that we would say, okay, these are the ascended masters that we know so far. But what's happening now is that ascension is becoming more understood at mass, because we're here to bring that knowledge, but we're not here to just bring that knowledge to a particular spiritual group we feel very much connected to, or the people that are close to us. Because just recently I had, a conversation with someone, and something challenging came out from the people that don't always see us and understand us. And that person said to me, you know, I know that you find yourself in a circle where people see you and see through you, and they understand you, and it's very beautiful, because I said that this is the people that kind of are encompassing me right now, and it feels very blissful. And they said, yeah, but your true mastery kind of takes over when you truly are also met up with the people who are not like that. And it's true, because also for us, but in a way we've come also for people like that, because we didn't just come here to share this in close spiritual groups. If you go back to the ancient times, like the Essenes, they were holding that knowledge just for themselves, and it was very much dedicated just for them and their studying and what they actually were learning from it, and how they were receiving certain guidance from the ancestral lineage, from a lot of the already star-seeded and established origins about the cosmic knowledge and understanding. But where we are now is that the energy, not all at once, but slowly and slowly, it needs to kind of come out into the wider circles. But the thing that we need is the communication skills, that we can kind of communicate that out, to be with the groups that are comfortable with us. This is where we kind of practice being really safe and open. This is where knowledge comes through. But then we got to step out into the world at large. And this is where we will be sometimes met up with or confronted with energies that are challenging aspects as well. Because as you know, even in astrology, we have harmonizing and challenging aspects. This is the basics of all life and how it expands. For the art of evolution, you need both energies, the contracting energy, the expanding energy, the challenging energy, the harmonizing, balancing energy. So this is all an act of love. None of it is not of love. But we see this dualistic approach a lot of the times, and we use it because we think it kind of serves us. And a lot of the times it doesn't, it really doesn't. So where a lot of us are, and I mention again astrology because it's not just a piece of crap, it depends how you use it, but astrology in a way is like a bridge between those spiritual realms and the scientific approach, because it gives you certain metaphysical understandings, but through a practical approach of, look, this is how it's happening when these rotations are like this and like that, and we're actually feeling that in our own lives, and we're saying, wow, it really is like that. And then we have a confirmation up until the point where we even transcend that. So nothing is bad, or nothing is an illusion or a piece of bullshit, if I say it like that, like it is. But it's just a means to get us to a next level, to the next level of our spiritual mastery and understanding, up until the point where we really transcend all the needs to know something just metaphysically or just scientifically, or in a way just mentally. It becomes such an organic flow for us. And a lot of the times, like I said, we will need those two energies to work with. And that is why we are being pushed also outside of our comfort zone. So we feel safe with our fellow light beings, with our soul family, with our soul groups. And I've shared in one of my previous videos on the expansion of our star missions with soul associations and our affiliates, which means that these are kind of like our co-workers, our partners in crime for what we're doing here as warriors of light. Truly the warriors of cosmic heart, because we don't need to fight anymore to come at a certain goal and to win at something. We're just doing it through a flow, through the flow of love, and through witnessing what's happening in this planet, and kind of contributing what we feel very intuitively, very organically, as to what it can be shared. Each of us needs to know where we are for our true understanding of the greatness of all life and the divine equation, we need to know first and master our own divine equation, which means, why am I here? Who am I? You know, even in the cycle of astrology, it all begins with the energy of Aries, which is the fire, it's pure spirit. As before, everything from that ether becomes spirit, and we kind of associate that with the element of fire. It's pure creativity, and then how we will utilize it comes with the first earthly side, which then is Taurus, and you know, then we have air, and then we have water. So it's all an ongoing continuation of how we basically bring the life force of pure consciousness into the living streams of life, into through life force into living life reality. And we're always learning. But to take the experiences from the past, or history stories, or even the things and people, figures of the past, or gurus of the past, and to just put them in a box like how we perceive things now, again, isn't working. To be masters of earth means to be first masters of our own experience, like I said, to know our divine equation, then to transcend that in order to be masters of the living now reality, which means I get what I need at this time frame now. And I remember when I first awakened, I also felt like there's so much knowledge out there, and if I'm going to miss out even on one single piece, I'm not going to have the whole picture. And then it becomes too much, and it becomes too overwhelming, and you're just chasing knowledge instead of being true to what you are. And even that is perfect, because it's a period of when you really are gathering. You're gathering so much, these pearls of knowledge, before you can put them into action and practice, so that they can become later the pearls of wisdom. And a lot of us is now pushed beyond this, what we know scientifically, metaphysically, spiritually, to just being divine humans. You know, recently I was out in nature with someone, and we really just kind of surrendered. We were just so playful out in nature, and you know, my friend later said, wow, it's like playing Adam and Eve outside in nature, like in the Garden of Eden, in the paradise. And when we were first created, this was the whole intent, was like that. But then the whole experience of how the human psyche was evolving kind of caught up with us. But we kind of, like I've said before, returning to innocence, and yet no longer through that naivety, but through a masterful knowing of who we are now. We know now who we are. A lot of us are awake, and we're aware, and we're conscious, we're fully aware as divine observant beings. And yet we feel we want to move into greater life streams. We don't want to just be in the knowing and not have a physical experience. We want both, because we've come here to do both, to have that bridging of the realities. We didn't come here, wake up, and then leave again somewhere else in another dimension. What we're doing is we're merging all these dimensions and realities and our multidimensional aspects within ourselves. I've developed a beautiful mastery course, which is called the Multidimensional Ascension, which talks about this and the nature of the cosmic ascension to the earthly ascension. And this is provided and available on my webpage called Serapina Light, for those of you interested. But this is all so beautiful. In a way, we're kind of making it more and more simple in terms of what it truly is, and it's so organic. But for us to be with where we are, we got to move through, you know, where we are. It's very simple. We cannot be where we wish to be or where we used to be, and kind of like living in between worlds is not the same as merging the worlds within ourselves. Because when we feel like we got to make a sacrifice from one reality to the other, then we're again in separation. When we will feel we don't have anything to sacrifice, just being present with what is, learning from it, growing and evolving from it, we will be in the masterful presence. We will be in unity consciousness, because unity does not need to fill in the gaps. We're still doing it. We are doing it at the same time. It's a paradox, because we're still not fully in that unity consciousness in terms of our physical form. The form wants to participate. We're kind of lifting up and ascending the physical human form to that degree. And that is why we need those experiences. We need both experiences, from the highest of the Anheim, from the most ethereal to the most physical. Because what Spirit recently shared with me, if you want to have this beautiful tantric, life force, amazing, blissful experience, you cannot have it here, up there, in the head. It's not going to be transcended and put into through your physical vessel. What we need to do is descend so fully into our human form that we go to the lowest point of where our kind of like our consciousness descended before we began to ascend, and we're bringing that aspect, and it's kind of like we're wanting to kind of put it out there again. And we're now at this beautiful time of the Scorpio full moon, which is this week, and it's an amazing time of opportunity to go so deep that we haven't gone before. And this means not escaping the things we've maybe before put aside. You want to get over something. You don't allow yourself to grieve. You don't allow yourself to have the human experience because you're so cosmic. And in the end, it will eventually catch up with you, because to be in the human form means to embrace all of the human form. And to be truly an ascension pioneer is not to live your ascension in your head, is not to become so entrenched in these New Age concepts that in the end, all they are is concepts. None of it is real. None of this is what you're actually experiencing. It's just a concept in your mind, because I've met up with people who live their ascension in their head and they're just choosing it as a vertical experience, and in the end, they're never going to bring it into their bodies. Their lives don't match what they are saying with their words that they desire, their awareness, because there's not the complete alignment in that integrity yet. And the glue to that is the human experience. The moment we kind of numb ourselves down and negate ourselves, step aside from the human experience, want to avoid it, kind of like bypass it, we're forgetting about that glue. So the bridge to our ascending selves, to becoming human masters, becoming masters of the new era, is the art of the human experience. I'm not saying this means you got to do every single thing that, even what your mind perceives as negative. It just means observe it, let it be. You don't have to choose it, but you do have to accept it. It does have to be unconditional for you to ascend the energy of that. What that meant for me, I'm going to share a personal experience with you, is that there were some things that I said to myself, I would never do this or never do that, or I don't think my ascended self would ever participate in something like this. And then if I could stage all these three things I actually did. It was a very short experience, only to prove to me that there's nothing that we can kind of avoid, because none of it is not separate from us. So when we allow this to occur, we will see that we still remain our purity. We're still intact because we're doing it now from a conscious space. We're doing it from a space of being aware of what we're doing. And I talk to people, and many times they say, well, if I do this, I feel guilt. I don't know what to do with it. It feels like it's not in alignment with my integrity, and yet I want to do it. If there's even a slight part of you wanting to do something, and you're kind of like, you're unclear about it, or you feel like there's judgment within you, and you feel like you're still judging a part of the human experience, well, eventually we'll have to come up with the terms of you merging all those aspects of yourself that want to have a unified experience of what you really desire. And when that thing is put into your allowance field, it will change. That's how we transcend. We don't transcend only with, you see, like the butterflies descended and transcended. We don't only transcend with our minds and spiritual concepts. We actually transcend by diving so deep into the human form and all of its rainbow forms of the experiences, then bring that back to the surface. So this is where we are now, a lot of us. And for us to do that work, we're going to be presented with initiations that won't always feel comfortable. We're going to maybe meet up with people who are not as we are in awareness. And they perceive things maybe more through a physical experience. But what we're doing is we're embracing both aspects, because they're merging. Their realities are clashing together. They're coming together. It's almost like that sense of colliding galaxies, and we see it as an end, and we say, wow, two galaxies collided, the end of the worlds. No, the fusion and the creation of new worlds, something it hasn't been before, because obviously from the universal, multiversal perspective, these two galaxies wouldn't even collide if there wasn't a need or desire, because in the divine intent, through love and wisdom, everything begins with that first intention of love, which is to create. It's to create. The moment that you're aware of your existence, which is the I am that I am, that existence, in its knowing of the existence of the I am and I exist, already starts to create. It's an automatic parallel experience. You exist, therefore you create. Otherwise there is no existence. So all that creation first is coming through that divine intent. And because of that, it's so organic. And we are like this. But we've had filters. We filtered our experiences before. We said, this is not good. This is not ascending. This is not, spiritual enough. And what we're doing now is we're clashing all of that, because we're learning not to be guided through our mind anymore. Even spiritual concepts are mental. If they're not lived, if they're not integrated into physical form, if they're not principles of creation, one thing is a spiritual concept, the other thing is a principle of creation. And I talk about this in my Cosmic Convergence workshop, because my knowledge and understanding from Elven perspective through the art of nature and its natural principles is to understand how creation evolves and expands through those divine creation principles. It's not the same to just have them as spiritual concepts, because they still are just mental concepts. When they become a reality, on some level or another, it doesn't matter. They're already become principles, because we're living through them, we're being guided through them, and that's the difference. Well, you can have a spiritual concept in your head and your life reality still doesn't reflect that. Well, it's just a concept. It's not a principle yet. You see what I mean? So I also talk a lot about that in my mastery courses, if you're interested. My self-mastery courses that I developed for us to begin our journey of physical but spiritual initiation within ourselves, so we can start exploring the multiversal realms and then bringing back down. So a lot of us now find ourselves at this threshold when we are almost like, is this where I started this journey? And yet it's not. It's different. It feels void and spacey because we haven't been here before, and I've shared this in my previous videos. And yet it's new because it feels different. The feeling is different, and that's our indication that we're not at the same spot. It doesn't feel, you know, when something is just repetitive, it will feel like stagnant. It doesn't feel stagnant at all. It just feels different. And if you find yourselves moving away from the spiritual concepts and moving more into the practical embodiment through living life forms, you know, I don't know, gardening, just one thing popping into my head, or, you know, creating resource-based economies and exchanging gifts, creating anything with your hands, with the art, whatever. All these things are, you know, are indications of how we're now moving and creating on this different, higher dimensional levels of our existence self. Because we first needed to be aware that we can and we do exist on those levels, to then bring those concepts and to make them principles. So this is where we are as masters of Earth. We got to move into every single experience that the Earth can provide. This doesn't mean now you need to go, I don't know, and become a soldier and go into the war. No. It just means that from the desire of what your soul wants you to expand through, you have to go to those offerings that kind of are the offerings of your life force. And at times it might seem that they're not, because your filters will say, I don't need that, I don't want that. But your life force will continuously move you, and it will push you, and you will be pushed from your comfort zone, and will feel like, oh, I don't want this. You don't want the process, you just want the goodies, or you just want to come out on the other end, or you just want what people say, I want the twin flame, or I want this and that. No, you know, the path of mastery is being a master of every single thing within yourself first. And then when the wanting shifts and becomes the inner self-fulfillment, that self-fulfillment can be met physically and very organically through the fulfillment through other physical mirrors, like your divine counterpart, like your divine partner, your creation partner. And that is why so many of us are feeling the need to not just be in love with someone, to just share our lives, but also a part of that sharing is creating something together in these sacred devotional partnerships. And for us, that we're moving into these greater levels, embracing more of the group consciousness, more of what's happening at large, and becoming masters of Earth, we are moving through that group consciousness. And I created last year also an advanced mastery course on the group consciousness and the enlightened partnership, and you can also find that on my webpage right next to the mastery courses. But I want to inform you also now, since I'm at this topic, that my Sacred Cosmic Beloved course is now finally out. It took a little longer than anticipated, which is very natural for me. I say it will be available on that time, and then it's not. And this just teaches me that this human experience can so not be defined. It cannot be put into a linear framework. It's just so organic. It's becoming organic. And it doesn't mean we're not devoted to, you know, focus to what we say. It just, in the end, it might turn out a little slightly different than what we've initially thought. And this is a good thing. This is a good thing. Because a lot of people have this innate idea that if something is not particularly the way they planned it, then it's bad. It's actually a good thing, and we got to start embracing that good thing. Life to be more organic. And recently someone asked me, he said, please, I need your help. I need a topic very fast. I have a seminar, so what should this topic be about? What should I talk about? And the thing is, you know, I don't know. And the first thing that I was actually guided to respond was that we are the topic. We are that key. We are all that, you know, that joy we feel for something we want to share is already the answer. It's not something we perceive maybe others would want to hear, or something that's anticipated from us or expected from us. You know, a lot of times there's people who expect I'm going to always be there behind the computer, posting daily messages, always having these videos, always being there, replying to every single email, every single time. I am an organic human being. And so we're all basically becoming so much more organic. So how will you know that you're shifting more into becoming a master of Earth? Because you will feel more simple, you will feel less need to know and to understand, but the understanding will come through experience. It means that you've embraced all the polarity within you, the spiritual, the practical, the implication of it, the application of your knowledge. You're just enjoying life more, you want to fuse all parts of you more, you're just wanting to simplify your life and at the same time follow that complexity of the cosmic divine understanding, and to just simply allow and embrace all human beings and their experiences. Because as I was guided myself just recently, was just seeing what others are doing, you know, not wanting to say don't do that because I'm there next to you, but just saying do it anyway, because I'm not choosing it. That doesn't mean, you know, we don't compassionately allow others to choose it. But the thing is, you know, with a lot of the things we've been judging others, you know, let me give you one example. We've been judging people who are still eating meat, who are still not really feeding through compassion. But the thing is, you know, even judging them is not having the compassion for fellow humans as they're still doing that, because we don't want to come from a place of judging them. We don't kind of want to come from a place of saying, ooh, now you're bad. Imagine that it was vice versa, and now people who are living through natural organic lifestyles are in a minority. But what if we were in superiority and these few groups were left who were still doing that, and will we kind of stigmatize them and say, ugh, yuck, you know, you're still feeding that way, how can you, you're so not involved. The thing is that we might have compassion for all life forms and animals, but that also includes other fellow human beings. And a lot of the people are judging this. They're judging the system for providing all of this, that it's still available, you know, things like eating meat, smoking, drinking alcohol, all of these things. But, you know, it's to numb ourselves down, and yet we're not coming from a compassionate state. And to be a cosmic but yet human master also means to allow other humans to have their own experiences, because sometimes they need to have them so they will learn on their own what these experiences are actually bringing into their life, and whether they're self-engaging and self-fulfilling or not. And what we can do is we just have to share how we live, how more energetic and more vital it is when we live this way, how much more energy we have. Because usually people, when they see how I live, they're like, you can have that much energy? Yes. But we got to show it the conscious and compassionate way. So this is also one important aspect of becoming an Earth Master. And as I've shared with you before, that Spirit told me this, I think a few years ago, and they said, you're already a Cosmic Master, but now you're becoming a Master of Earth. And this is a very humbling experience, because you're always in mastery. You're not a master, period. It doesn't happen this way. It's not like a self-recognition. All of a sudden you feel a shift. Oh, now I am a master. It's always in training. It's always in progress. It's always evolving and expanding. So I would just, you know, say that I'm on the path of mastery, and this is what I'm choosing, and that's it. I can't say anything else about it. I wouldn't say I am this, I am, or it's just I am. So this is why I said that I choose my own organic lifestyle. I don't always be with everything right away, with everyone right away, but it will work out. It will be perfect through my own authentic presence. And when we learn to trust, everything works out. So this is for today. And as I said, I invite you to take my Cosmic Beloved course if you're so inclined. It's a beautiful course, my most integrated course so far, from the perspective of cosmic, but bringing it down to our human experience, and to have beautiful and light partnerships, to really be those masters of divine love on Earth. So thank you for all those of you watching my videos, sharing your feedback, of course, donating, supporting in any kind of way, and making yourselves known. I really love my family of Ascension Pioneers, as well as my all Ascending family, and you're all my Ascension team. Thank you so much. We're all in this together, as always, but we got to make it very much practical. The wisdom comes from the practical application of what we know, and each of us has a unique part to the greatness of all. We have a unique strength, you know, we have a unique attribution. So that's it for today. I will talk to you again very soon, and as always, so much love, wisdom, and power from here in the beautiful Alps in my sacred space. The sun just had its last reappearance for today's video, and we'll see each other very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.